All right. Hey, guess what? It's 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 o'clock Guyana time. Let's get ready to rumble this evening, right? Let's get ready to rumble. Get under the skin of some of those folks who become very emotional. You know what I mean? So spread the word. We're on right now, but straight up on 107.1 FM. You know what I mean? Good. We'll be right back.
What is the difference between the ordinary thief and a political thief? Number one, the ordinary thief steals your money, your bag, your watch, and your jewelry, isn't it? But the political thief steals your future, your career, your education, your health, and your business. Number two, the hilarious part is that the ordinary thief will choose whom to rob. But you are the one who choose the political thief to rob you. Because we choose them. We vote them. We blindly say we are not blind. Who is deceiving who? The ridiculous part of the whole issue is that we will fight to defend and protect our belongings from the ordinary thief. Is it not? But we fight each other to defend and protect the political thief. Is that not what we do? Thugs will be fighting themselves to protect those that are stealing our career, stealing our joy, stealing our health, stealing our success. What a shame. What a travesty. It calls for us to think and think deep. The stage we are in as a country is not a stage where you become an onlooker. You have become an onlooker for too long. You must get ready to put your hands to the plow and be part of the process. It's not just about PVC, carry PVC. You must be in the kitchen where it is being determined. You must be there where the decisions are being made. If we are there in our numbers, they cannot outnumber us. But you leave it aloof. Oh, no, it's too dirty. It's a dirty game. And then the dirty guy is getting to the game of play. And you are there not showing up. And when they begin to make the decisions, you will know whether it's a dirty game or not. The result is always dirty on yours. Dirty on your health. Dirty on your business. Dirty on your success and your career. I hope that is stirring up something in you.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
It's an eco-friendly Christmas. The Guyana Public Service Cooperative Credit Union is pleased to present our annual Christmas promotion, commencing November 1st, 2021 and concludes December 17, 2021. The credit union recognizes and acknowledges the importance of minimizing our carbon footprint and has tailored this year's promotion to suit by presenting our members with an electric car and bikes, which will undoubtedly raise awareness and help our members to adopt. To participate, one must be a member of the Guyana Public Service Cooperative Credit Union, must like and follow the credit union's Facebook page, must have an existing loan with the credit union, must be in good standing with the credit union, must not be an immediate family member of any staff or committee member, must earn a gross of less than $150,000 monthly, and proof of this fact must be attached. And only one coupon is allowed per member. It's an eco-friendly Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
All right. Hey, good evening. Let's get ready to rock and roll. Good evening to all of you, every single one of you in the house this evening, whether you're in Georgetown, whether you're in Linden, whether you're in Essequibo, whether you are on the quarantine, Blackbush Boulder, wherever you are, Philippi Village, Alnes Village, Kildonan, Norney, Bloomfield, Wim, Letterkenny, New Amsterdam, and to the folks in New Amsterdam, good evening to you guys, even the folks in Belladrum, where is it? Wellington, Fort Wellington, and all those other areas. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to the folks in Agricola. Good evening to all of you. Even the folks in Buxton. You've got to see my face when I say Buxton. You understand, right? Buxton. Good evening to all of the wonderful, and mind you, the wonderful people of Buxton. I'm saying the wonderful indeed. You know what I mean? Miss Booker, good evening to you. Good evening to all of you, every single one of you. Thank you for sharing the link. Let's get ready to rumble right here on 107.1 FM. Good evening to the folks at Andrew's Supermarket. Thank you so much for reminding me of these things, Lemon. Thank you so much. And what about this business out there in Brooklyn? Look, 5606 Church Avenue. Whatever it is, I know they have a lot of nurses watching this show. Lots of nurses who are watching this show. If you need a new uniform or whatever, go on down there and do whatever is necessary. You know what I mean? Just go on down there. Tell them that you heard it right here on 107.1 FM. 107.1 FM. Somebody's begging. I'm sorry, I don't mean it when I say begging like that, right? Begging like that. But Williams, Denise Williams, it's Barbados, Bajan. Good evening to all of those folks, every single one of you. Now I can run through the list. Now here's what I need to do. I need to say this to the folks. Last evening we had several guests. You know, we have had the chairman, of the Complaints Review Board, Civilian Complaints Review Board of New York City, the Honorable Reverend Fred Davy, who's also commissioner for the rights of religious freedom around the world. He's appointed by President Biden. He was on last evening, not President Biden. Maybe one of these days we'll be able to get President Biden on 107.1 FM. You know what I mean, right? So guess what? And we had Lincoln Lewis as well. But while we were having our guest, our last guest, right? Joseph Frederick Harmon, I have folks who were complaining, and rightly so. And I'm not upset with people who are complaining. I'm not going to get emotional at all. And I'm not going to throw tantrums and so forth and so on. You understand? I'm not going to do that. Mind you, I'm not. That sort of tantrum throwing got their people. You know what I mean, right? Got their people. But let me say this, though, that there are some folks, or there were some folks who couldn't have gotten on last evening to comment. And some of them, you know, they quickly love to blame Ben Sharp. They love to call Ben Sharp's name in all sorts of things, in all manner of things. Ruction set of people, huh? Ruction set of individuals. But I had to explain to some folks that, look, We are not in the habit of blocking people, especially legitimate viewers, not the viewers who come here to basically divert attention and all sort of manner of distractions and so forth and so on. We don't go in for that, right? But when we have real people who cannot get on, cannot blog, the first thing, and when I say blog, to give a quick comment or whatever it is, the first thing they say is, bench up, block them. Bench up, block them, right? They can't comment and they start to, and they get the cry up and they want to know why they were blocked. But let me explain this to you guys. The only set of folks that we throw in the trench here, and Lemon can attest to that, are those folks who come here with the intention to distract the program. We throw them in the trench. You understand? We throw them in the trench because that's where they belong. We're not going to say, look, it is okay. Not everyone who comes on this show is going to agree with what I have to say or what some of our guests have to say, right? But when you want to distract and you're making silly comments, and you know what I mean by silly comments, dotishness, right? That's the order of the day, right? Dotishness, silly comments, inconsequential views, you know what I mean? And so those persons who deliberately come here to distract, they got to go. Look, they got quite a lot of views. I don't necessarily agree with your views and some things or the other. And I know a lot of you also at times do not agree with some of the things. And it's okay. It is democracy. That's what happens in a democracy. And I appreciate you guys, all of you guys, every single one of you. I appreciate you being on here. Because this is not some sort of dotish live program, you know, where out of emotions and bumps raise and hurt and your hormones shift and so forth. And we come here live to talk about God in heaven knows what. We don't do that. Now, those things have their people. You understand? They have their people. What we deal here is with sensible matters. We deal with matters that will be able to open your eyes and to understand. That is the word. Understand. You know what I mean? Understand. There's no other form of pronunciation of that word. Understand. Do you understand? Right? That is what we do here. This is not about propaganda. This is not about throwing stuff, wool or what is it, a sheet over and camouflage things in order for crumbs, collecting crumbs and little 7 pieces of silver, whatever it is. And these, we don't do that here. We're about building communities. We are about building country, that country. We're not about dividing the country at all. Do you understand? Do you guys really understand? That's the correct pronunciation. Understand, right? That is what we do here. There's nothing else that we do. Nothing else. Absolutely nothing else at all, right? Now, there are some folks who may want to throw tantrums because their feelings are hurt, politically or otherwise, and we understand those individuals. Do you guys understand? We know those individuals. We're not bothered by how they feel. But when you want to be able to dish out and throw things out, you understand. Well, then you must be able to take back stuff. And you can't, in the process of taking back, get all touchy and emotional and rant and rave and all these different things. Did you guys understand? Now, look, let's get on with this program here. Let's get on with it. All right, let me see. There's somebody saying that there is no sound. Let us get this straight. Let us get this straight. Mr. Hopkinson, Mark Hopkinson. Another Mark is in the house. The name Mark is trending. Not for right things, though, right? You understand. All right, so Mark Hopkinson, good evening to you. Somebody's saying that there is no Miss Booker. Miss Booker is saying there's no sound. Now, let me get this straight. Let's try to understand. Do you guys have... somebody's saying, thank you so much. Sound is loud and clear. Miss Booker, are you in Buxton? I know you're a Buxtonian, a genuine, hardworking Buxtonian. Salute to you, Miss Booker, and all the other hardworking, sincere Buxtonians in the house. Loud and clear, some folks are saying, Miss Booker, I don't know what's going on. Just probably, well, she can't hear me if there's no sound. Duh, if there's no sound, right? Loud and clear. Garfield Collins. I haven't seen him for a while. A while, sorry, not wild. I haven't seen him for a while. Look, oh my gosh, there's another Mark. There's got to be a good Mark. Mark Julian. Good evening to you, Mark Julian. All the Marks are here tonight. The good Marks. All of us good Marks are here tonight. All right, so let's see here. Loud and clear. All of you saying loud and clear. Thank you so much for tuning in. Look, tonight is just going to, I wanted to be on just alone, right? To deal with sensible matters. Because that's what we do here at 107.1 FM. We deal with sensible matters. Martin Luther. Good evening to you, Martin. Michelle Lampkin. I always like that name. Lampkin. Good evening to you. All right. So look, let's get somebody from South Carolina. K.N. Lambert. Oh, okay. South Carolina. Charleston or Waldoboro? You know, I kind of like Waldoboro for good reasons. But look, they have Siobhan McDonald, loud and clear in Florida. Okay, loud and clear. Somebody's saying bring on J.R. Crawford. Michelle, like, you've got to be a C-far individuals. A C-far individual. Bring on J.R. Crawford. But because before we do bring on Mr. Crawford, J.R. Crawford, let me just say to you guys that the regime, the installed PPP regime, that's correct, the installed PPP regime, folks are not going to like, some folks are not going to like that, especially the ones who are jumping on the mountaintop and singing for their supper. It appears as though if they don't sing for the supper, they can't survive. And they always have to be in political enemy camp. And once they are in political enemy camp, they are irrational in their reasonings. They are irrational. You know the ones who are irrational. You can see it right through them that they are irrational. They are singing for their supper, pretending to care about you, the people who look like them. They pretend to care about them. But the truth of the matter is, they don't give a damn. They are basically fighting a battle for the political oppressors. And then they're going to come. Some of you may fall for that trap and that trickery. I'm saying to you guys tonight, you understand? Don't fall for that trickery. Don't fall for that sort of flat hustling mentality. Do not fall for it. The bigger picture is communities have to be developed by real and honest, sincere individuals and community leaders, regardless of where you are from. Now, everybody wants the best for their communities. Don't get me wrong. Everyone wants the best for their communities. But you've got to look out for the poisonous fruits coming into your community, disguised as political goodness, as political goodies. Because when oppressors come into your communities and they pretend that they love you and they like you and they handpick a couple within those communities to carry out their political biddings, then, I repeat, because I want you guys to understand, then it becomes troublesome. You've got to be careful. You've got to be cautious. And as the saying goes in the streets, you've got to dare upon your many and not be fooled. And so when they come either with a cricket bat, well, notice certain communities, they don't take cricket bats at all. It is as though cricket is not for those sort of communities, just a football. They kick a football into your communities And they pretend as though they're doing X, Y, and Z for you whilst kicking you around like a political football. At the end of the day, that is what it is. Because football doesn't empower your community. It doesn't. And if you're not careful with that sort of swine-like political agenda, you can run yourselves into serious, serious problems, especially our youths. Parents, be careful. Be careful with those rattlesnakes, those political rattlesnakes who have no shame in jumping on the mountaintop and singing for their supper. You understand? Now look, we have a guest this evening. That person, enough of those inconsequential individuals, enough of that, tempers and tantrums and all these things, and when tantrums and temper and they get emotional and their outburst and all these sorts of things, whenever those things happen, they get personal. And now some folks don't want us to get personal. They dish out, but when they get back, they bawl like little boys. Here's what. Let's get straight to somebody named Felicia Cameron is saying, my cousin, I don't know. I have lots of cousins. Lots and lots of cousins. Lots and lots of cousins. Let's bring on this gentleman. J.R. Crawford. J.R. Crawford. Good evening to you, and how have you been?
Good evening, everyone. So far, so good.
So far, so good. Is that a football shirt you have on there?
No, it's an old work shirt.
Because it seems as though for these people in the installed regime, it's about football, going to a community and dash a football and give them. What's happening in your neck of the woods on the quarantine? What's going on with the COVID-19 and all of these different things? What's happening?
Well, we have seen, a constant rise in the infectious rate, especially on the upper quarantine, where folks, nobody could tell them anything because they have contacts in the government. And there are some pundits, who are holding a religious function regardless of, who try to stop them. They're still going ahead with what they're doing. And from what I've seen, it's like people don't really care. They I don't know. The mindset of Guyanese is, it is what it is.
What exactly do you mean by the mindset of Guyanese? It is what it is. Is it that they don't care?
Well, that's what it's.
Explain.
If you had care for your life, you would not be engaging in certain activities where it brings you into constant contact with mass crowds. And I've seen it here. I've seen it up in Suzdijk, along the East Bank Road. They're doing the same thing, especially on the weekends. It's like nobody cares about what happens or if they become carriers of the virus. And for some strange reason, Guyanese have always had this suicidal mentality. So nobody's enforcing it, because when you try to go to some, let's say, for instance, the pundits or the bar owners, as a police officer, you'll get reprimanded instantly.
Reprimanded instantly, indeed. What are some of the concerns of the people there on the quarantine? Cost of living gone up. Blockouts constant. The water pressure has changed. People are hardly getting water upstairs. What is describe life like on the quarantine? Well, let's describe that life.
It has gone back to prior to 2015 when the coalition took office. It seems that that's the way things must be run under this current government. With the rising cost of living, everybody seems to be harping on, hey, raise the pay and all these things. But if you don't control cost of living, you're going to have a bag full of money that don't worth a dime. And a lot of people don't understand. I haven't seen any politicians try to bring forward that point where the government is forced to, reduce the cost of living one way or the other. And we keep seeing raise of pay, and eventually we're going to get to a point where Brazil was in the 80s, where Mexico was in the early 2000s, where you have a bag full of money and you can't get much for it. And it's with this inflation, it's taken a heavy toll on the poorer folks, and this is from both sides of the divide. So we need, as ministers, be it in government or out of government, we need to start to address these issues on a daily basis so we can get a handle on it. But we're not seeing everybody's talking about who didn't get this percentage raise, but they're not talking about the basic necessities that are gone through the roof.
The basic necessities gone through the roof indeed. People are punishing in that country. The people who are running that country, albeit through some installation, they just don't care. What about the sugar workers, Mr. Crawford?
Well, they have been shut up for a little bit. They're working and they're taking whatever little they have, and that's about it. There's nothing more they can do because there are bills to be paid. So, it is what it is for them. And a lot of folks are just trying to see if there's going to be any help towards them.
Yep, continue talking. People want to hear what's happening. People really want to hear what's happening. Continue talking. But here, do me one favor. Don't say anything about the candidate that you support as yet. Because we're here to talk about serious problems. I will give you a chance to respond to one question about your candidate. But talk about life in the country, please. In the entire country.
I would not bring in the leadership race on this program because I don't think this program was designed for that tonight.
Sure, go ahead, continue. Other problems in the country, not just quarantine.
There's a couple of things that are bothering, are bothersome. We saw in Linden where Mr. Nigel London had a live there today, where a couple of young black youths was shot. And, these are disturbing trends. You're seeing officers with assault weapons. We are not a nation where we go around shooting at the police. Why are they carrying these, heavy-duty guns? For what reason? The police must start to engage citizens of the community with respect, so we can have, more exchange with them, and we try to improve our society instead of, shooting at our citizens without probable cause. So, these are things that we need to rein in. The police force has gone, above its head, and we need to have this addressed, ASAP.
Well, there are lots of things that we have to have addressed ASAP, but those things are not being addressed. We see, forget about the hustlers and their agenda, the political hustlers and others. But this is obviously a regime that doesn't care. Look at the drug bust in the Netherlands, and look at other issues that they're attempting to push under the rug. But yet, I have noticed that the ABC representatives in Guyana, they're quiet for now. It is not like they're not watching, but they're quiet for now. Why do you think all of these things being pushed under the rug and Guyanese are being bamboozled, so to speak?
Well, it's a recurring behavior from the early 2000s, and it's bothersome, yes, that the very folks who were so vigilant and present during the election process, they have suddenly now become silent. I don't know if that's by design or that's what they want to do at this point. If it's by design, they may have a motive. If it's something that they're showing that they don't care to, of what is going on to certain folks in this country, it's a disturbing trend. And when you look at the racial discrimination and the disrespect to Black people in this country, especially in the decade of African recognition, for one, little Charlie, with his behavior, I would have expected that the immediate folks in Georgetown of Black ancestry lineage would have been out there at the protests. I don't think Charlie has the right to disrespect a complete ethnic group, because he feels, he cannot be reprimanded at this point in time. We as people of African descent, albeit if it's 100% or 5%, we need to stand up to these things. And also we need to start to call out the very ones who have been the henchmen for the current government, that are inflicting harm against their own. Those are the traits that have been going on for hundreds of years that are causing problems in our society, where the guy behind the gun is one of us. And, it's a sad thing to see that our own folks are hiring out themselves for a few pennies to destroy their own bloodline. And those are things that we need to, address these issues. And also, I think we need to have more focus on the groups within the country to educate the villagers, so as to it expands to the communities, and then it expands to the region. And that's how we will, get the information together. But as of now, we're not seeing this cohesive behavior from the ground up.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. J.R. Crawford. We're just getting some breaking news story. We'll get to that shortly, but let me just offer a quick apology again to all of you guys who could not have commented last evening. I honestly don't know what that is, and it is not Lemon who did anything. It happens sometimes. That's the nature of Facebook. Again, let me apologize to you guys. Some folks are still texting me about not being able to comment. I'm sorry about that. So honestly, we are unable to say what the problem is, but it's got to be Facebook, not us here. All right. And let me also apologize to a regular listener, Piri. Last evening, I made a comment because I realized some of the listeners were getting a bit emotional. And I want folks to understand that it's okay to disagree. But when we have guests on the program, refrain from being too personal with the guest. All right, that is all. And I thought that some comments last evening were a little personal towards our guest, Joseph Frederick Harmon. I understand emotions and so forth because of what is happening in the country, and you guys want to see action because a lot of people, questionable characters, they're raising their tails and their heads right now and behaving like bad Johns. Those things got to stop, and they will be stopped. So Piri, my humble apologies for coming off a little bit insensitive last night towards you. So my apologies. Whoever Piri is, I don't know who Piri, but I whoever that person is. Now, the breaking news that we're talking about is this year. By now, some of you would have gotten it. This is what's happening right now. Rickford Burke. According to the report coming out of Guyana, Rickford Burke is wanted in Guyana. This is not unexpected of the PPP regime, because as long as people criticize them, expose them, and this is what Burke has been doing. Now, I don't necessarily agree with everything Burke says or he does, but Burke has the interest of Guyanese at heart. But more so, he is seeing, like all of us, what is happening to predominantly Guyanese of African descent. It is a fact. And that has serious concerns, not only with people like Burke, but I am also concerned about that. Now, those little pia individuals who jumping on their lives and talking dotishness, they're not concerned about that because they don't know about their history. They don't understand what is happening. And so people who understand their history, who are well-read, and mind you, I don't want folks to get me wrong that you have to be well-read in order to understand your history, right? But once history doesn't become strong or stronger by allowing oppressors, political oppressors, to come into your communities in the name of whatever and think that that is okay, it is not. But this is dangerous ground. This is dangerous ground. And the installed regime has absolutely no shame. Now they're saying that a wanted bulletin is issued for Rickford Burke. Here for what? For something he said, allegedly. And now I want you folks to understand, I want you folks to hear this here. Major and others, I want you guys to hear this, what is happening, right? Thank you so much. We have a lot of folks who are on this news. Keith Isidan Jr., Senior, sorry. Good evening to Junior as well. But hear what? Hear why this is dangerous. Hear why this is dangerous. Hear why this is dangerous. Burke, I think I listened to a portion of what Burke said just prior to coming on this show. Right? Hazel Johnson, whether Burke can handle himself or not, it's besides the point. Not anybody can handle themselves, right? But I'm sure we all know, we all understand what the PPP is up to. Because Rickford Burke criticizes them, exposed them, they don't like that. They don't like people who expose them. They like people who run up to them, chat them, kiss their toes. You understand? Right? Those are the kind of people that they like. And they will do every and any little thing to hug up and show whatever sort of fake kind of appreciation and love for those type of individuals who suck up to oppressors. But if it's one thing though, if it's one thing I have learned, I don't suck up to oppressors. And I know a lot of you don't suck up to oppressors. And Rickford Burke doesn't suck up to oppressors. Now, Burke said, basically on his show, about how the regime, the installed regime, treat persons of mainly of African descent. He talked about the racism. He talked about stamping out racism and so forth and so on. He spoke about that. He spoke about that. And because he addressed the issue, these folks in the PPP, and a lot of them like to get on their bums and they get emotional and all of these things, they throw tantrums, you understand, right? All of these things they do. But you know what? Nothing is going to, no amount of political threats, no amount of other sort of subtle or indirect threats will move any of us. Absolutely not. And so I know that Burke haven't been on this show for a while, but I want the PPP and their vagabonds and their cohorts and their henchmen to know that when it comes to issues like this, we all rally around each other. We all rally around because it is pretty obvious what they are attempting to do to Mr. Burke. It is pretty obvious. And we all sit down on the drawing board. Lemon will tell you. We all sit down on the drawing board. And so this doesn't come as a surprise. This doesn't come as a surprise at all. We could read these people, these political vagabonds in the PPP. We can read them inside out. Inside out, we can read them. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. So we'll discuss that shortly. Let's get Burke off the here for a moment. What do you think of this latest development, Mr. Crawford?
Mark, you see, that is the problem here. When somebody speaks out about the negative in this country, they're being chastised. All of this could have been avoided if the PPP government would have respected its citizens, regardless of race, religion, creed, party, alignment, whatever. All the negative that are going on, they cause it upon themselves, because had they shown the respect to the country and governed for everybody as they are saying when they're with international people, they won't have to have people like you and I or anybody else, criticizing them. And it shows a blatant disrespect. And especially, like I said, in the decade of African recognition, this is the period where African heritage should be respected. And here's where our government of the day is showing total disrespect to the Black folks. And, this is something that we can't have as a nation. And look, people are free to support whichever party of their choice. But when I see people cross party lines and go and support a party that suppresses your ancestors or your brothers and sisters, whatever your heritage, it sends a disturbing signal, that many of us do not respect our roots or humanity in general. So this is something that we need to get our arms around and try to correct this, because if we allow this thing to grow, it's going to become uncontrollable. And we can't have a system where one cannot speak what's in mind. Once you speak with respective voice or tone, I don't see the problem in it. So what Rickford Burke was saying, there are times when he is pushed, and you can't blame him for that. But the PPP government is responsible, and I do hope the international communities, as well as our opposition team, start to work on this, because you can't sit back and allow these things to happen. A wanted bulletin for what? Did he make a violent threat to anybody? He's just speaking out about the oppression of Black people in this country. And here it is, if you inhabit...
Not just African Guyanese. He has also said that they are non-African Guyanese who are also treated in equal-like manner.
Right, but he is being blamed more as a person who orchestrated for the African people.
Well, one second. That is what they are going to do, Crawford. That is precisely what they're going to do. They're painting folks like us as though we are racist, and this is a narrative. This is a narrative that's coming directly out of Freedom House, and the surrogates of the PPP, the hustlers, and all of these are buying into that. If you notice their utterances, their rhetoric, Ben Chap preaching racism in this country, understand? Ben Chap preach, and look, they're not looking at the facts that when many of them were out there doing dirty things, it was this same very Ben Chap that they're talking about was out there in all the communities, standing up against injustices, standing up against police brutality, police killings, extrajudicial killings, and all of these things. Look at that. This was a fisherman in Mazarg, who was shot and killed. Who was killed allegedly in the Lenora police lockups. He was found there murdered. The family never got justice. They're still awaiting justice. And I was there at a funeral. I was there protesting with them under the PPP regime, and tons of other matters like this. Representing Guyanese, whether they're of indigenous background, East Indian background, whatever it is. But yet they don't see these things. They come and they say Ben Sharp or a Burke or whoever is racist, is spreading a racist agenda. And like I said, they're henchmen and so forth, and they're buying into that silly narrative. Punjab is racist, dividing up the country. They're not smart enough to see what the PPP is doing to Guyana.
Mark.
Let's pause for a moment. We got Rickford with us. Rickford, good evening.
Good night, Mark. How are you? Hi, Junior. Good night. How are you?
Yeah.
Good night.
Rickford, quickly before we get to, I want JR to finish his point quickly. Let's go to Jack Deo's tape. This is what Jack Deo said, and nothing happened to him. Here.
Right across Ghana, when the ministers of Granger or Nagamutu come here after the 21st of March, you say to them, walk behind them, chase them out, they're going to be illegal. Say to them, you're illegal. Free up the country, you're undemocratic. They're going to face a different situation right across the country.
When they come to the communities, whether it is in Burbies or...
Okay, so we saw exactly what he was pushing there, Burke and Crawford. But let's go to something else quickly and to show the double standard of these individuals. Quickly. We saw that. That's Irfan Ali now, the guy who has been installed as president. Before we go to you, Rickford, Mr. Crawford, you were making a point. Go ahead, sir.
Mark, if you look at, you see, the people of this country needs to take stock. The way the PPP operates, only like I said on this program, I thought 10% would have benefited, but I was corrected by somebody who is very adept in politics that only 3% of the population benefits from this type of behavior. So you have 97% of the people who are suffering one way or the other. And they need to stop looking at race and come together. And we need to put a stop to this. Only the people of this country can get these things straightened out. We need to have a government that, respect all the folks. We need a government that works for all of us and not somebody who divides us. And then you take your own to enforce punishment on the people that don't subscribe to you.
That's the history of the PPP. That's the nature of the PPP. Again, let us put this news up there. Wanted bulletin issued for Rickford Burke. Wanted bulletin. Rickford, what's going on with these guys, man? What's going on?
Mark, thank you for having me. Good night to your listeners. Mark, first of all, I live in America, in the United States of America, where I have the constitutional right to free speech. And the PPP will never, never be able to silence me. That's number one. Let me say that very clearly. Number two, today, my attorney sued Bar Jack there for $100 million for libel. And so that's probably part of his vendetta for me suing him. Secondly, as you know, the installed attorney general came to New York, and based on a law enforcement officer's testimony, he was engaged in a plot to kill me. And so that plot was reported to the NYPD, who in their police documentation of the report and their subsequent process said that Anand Lal was wanted. And since then, PPP supporters have been saying that I must be locked up or arrested or something like that. Let me say this. Up to yesterday, I was in conversation with some persons from the State Department. And I made it very clear about how the PPP fabricates charges, and that's with regard to Winston Jordan. They fabricate charges to silence their opponents. They fabricated charges against Paul Slope. When they can go to the extent that they went to conspire with people to allege that a distinguished former assistant police commissioner groped her or sexually molested her or whatever it is, you can tell how evil these people are. And they think that they are the bad Johns of the world. They think that they're the Hitlers of the world. So, well, tonight I am meeting with some of our members of Congress, and we're going to ask them to sanction members of the People's Progressive Party government. We're going to ask Congress and the United States government to sanction the leadership of the Guyana Police Force. Whomever put out that bulletin, we're going to ask for sanctions against the police commissioner. We're going to ask for sanctions against the deputy police commissioner. And I was aware since last night, Mark, that they were trying to do this. You would recall that during the election campaign, Anil Nanlal said that Burke should be extradited because I condemn people, the People's Progressive Party racism. And so I want to tell everybody tonight to calm down. I'm fine. I am not intimidated. I remain undaunted. And let me say this, Mark, permit me to say this. And I want to reiterate, there must be resistance and a revolution against PPP racism. No government, no individual, no ruler, no strong man has an inalienable right to be racist. Nobody.
Let me, and whilst I agree with you, and whilst this is being broadcast via radio, explain to our listeners, what do you mean by a revolution against racism? Because there are different aspects and different sort of revolution. Explain to our listeners.
Well, I'm saying people must protest. People must protest, come out and vociferously protest against PPP racism. We did it here in the United States on the Black Lives Matter. We went out there, nobody was violent, nobody was killing anybody or whatever it is. We went out there and we caused a revolution with Black Lives Matter when George Floyd died. Now, the PPP could interpret however they want. My words are my words. I am saying we must confront PPP racism. The PPP, now, Mark and Junior and your listeners, apart from the Holocaust, so, well, let me start with slavery. Apart from slavery, apart from the Holocaust, the most vile, evil atrocity in the world is racism. And the PPP is saying to us that they have a right to be racist. They have an inalienable right to be racist. And I am saying no. And I'm saying we must continue to resist PPP racism until the PPP could understand that they don't own the country. They don't have a right to impose ethnic segregation or dominance on Guyana, and that democratic governance, equitable governance must be the foundation upon which we proceed to govern Guyana. And every person in Guyana and every person in the United States is guaranteed a right to free speech. And I know that they have been plotting to kill me. They have been sending intelligence officers from the Guyana Defense Force to track me down, supposedly to kill me. They did it on the Barjack there. They're doing it now. They have special branch people tracking me. They have GDF officers tracking me. We're going to meet with the Justice Department and we're going to give them the names of everybody in the GDF intelligence officer, and they're going to make an analysis of who traveled to the United States and the purpose of their travel to the United States. The fact of the matter, Mark, is that we have been exposing PPP racism in CGID. We have been talking to our members of Congress, and so they have a cross here on my head. They want to kill you, they want to kill me. Every day they're talking about cutting off my head. So, and then they say, come to Guyana so that we could commune with you, or come to Guyana so that we could Ronald Waddle you. In other words, PPP supporters are openly threatening to kill you, threatening to kill me, and the PPP is not doing anything. Right now, on our friend Ali's Facebook page, one of his supporters is calling for my head to be cut off. My head to be cut off and brought to him on a platter. I would like, and I wrote the police commissioner, the former police commissioner, about that matter, and nothing was done. I am challenging the police commissioner tonight to put out a wanted bulletin for our finale, or whomever it is on his page is calling for my head to be cut off and me to be killed. And so people in the diaspora, people in Guyana must understand that Rickford Burke did not commit any crime. Rickford Burke condemned PPP racism. Rickford Burke called for PPP racism to be confronted and defeated, and for us to have an equitable government. Rickford Burke called for the end of contracts only to East Indian supporters of the PPP. And if that is sedition, then the PPP must tell us what is free speech. But I'm not intimidated and I'm undaunted.
You know, Rickford, this here, because the words uttered, you sitting in a country where the First Amendment gives you that right for free speech. You spoke about, in your words, that there ought to be a revolution against racism.
Yes.
Not against any regime, not against the installed regime or whatever. A revolution against racism. That's what you suggested. And now they are peaceful revolution, they are economic revolution, and all these things. But these are things these guys don't understand. But let me say this here to our listeners. The offense, the excitement of hostility or ill will on the grounds of race. They're saying that you're calling for racial hostility act and so forth and so on. Meanwhile, that never happened in the jurisdiction. So this is free speech.
Well, it never happened, period. What I said is that the PPP regime has a war on Black people. They have been targeting Black people. They've had agents in the police force shoot and kill Black people, and nothing has happened. Or in Boston was killed. No investigation results have been announced. Mr. Kevin Andrews have been shot and killed by police. Nothing. Joel and Isaiah Henry were killed by allegedly PPP supporters, and nothing has happened. But they are busy attacking me because I'm speaking out, because I have the ears of the United States government and members of Congress. And so we will see. Like I said, we will call for sanctions against members of the Guyana police force and members of the regime. We will call for sanctions against Barr Jagdeo and the Attorney General as well.
Not only that, a lot of them are associating with persons of questionable characters. We know who those individuals are.
Right.
We know.
And they give a contract for $680 million to somebody who's to a company that's on investigation by the FBI.
I have to smile. Some things have been going
me.
on for too long. Some things have been going on for too long. And I'm pretty sure that those in the law enforcement agencies over here will soon, possibly soon, revisit the extradition list. It's a very long extradition list. You know of that list, Burke. Very long extradition list. Let's not leave out Junior. J.R. Crawford, come back again with something. But don't say anything that wanted bulletin going to be issued for you. Don't say anything. It's a joke. It's comical. It's comical of these Looney Tunes in the PPP. Now, look, Burke, I will be in Brooklyn tomorrow. If I see you, how much is the bounty, man? How much is the bounty? Go ahead,
well, first of all, like I said, today, my attorneys sued Barr Jagdeo. And you know, the PPP, how they like to have revenge. So they think that this is revenge. They will trump up charges against me, just like I've been complaining and I've been condemning their trumped up charges against Calvin London and Trevor Ben and Volda Lawrence and James Bond and Paul Sloan and everybody else.
And all of them.
Yes, they think that they can, and the funny thing about it, this is what they think, that they're so powerful, just like Anil Nanlal came into the United States and allegedly participated in a plot to kill me. They think that they're so powerful that they could reach into the United States and attempt to control the speech of Rickford Burke. They are so scared of Rickford Burke communicating to the members of Congress their atrocities. They are so scared of Rickford Burke talking with the State Department and talking with the Biden administration about all their atrocities. They are so angry that we issued a statement and wrote to Judge Carlos Moore from the National Bar Association and exposed their racism, causing him to extend his stay and meet with African Guyanese business persons, Black lawyers, Black members of parliament to discuss PPP racism. So all of that, they think that they could now have revenge by having the police issue a wanted bulletin for me to spare my name, just like the NYPD has said and Anil Nanlal is wanted for plotting to kill me.
You know, Burke, you go through that, and we have been going through this for years, and the threats and the plots and the death threats and all these things from some of their kunumunu, some phantom squad operatives and so forth. Nobody cares about them, but we understand trumped up charges and so forth. I've gone through hundreds of those. We understand the nature of the beast that we're dealing with, the installed PPP regime. We're going to get back to Mr. Burke shortly. Let's hear from Mr. Crawford. This latest development and persecution of individuals, political persons.
Whatever is happening now, it's the PPP has themselves to blame, because if they had shown respect to the citizens of this country, they would not have been labeled. And even Stevie Wonder could see these. Look at the people who are being charged. You don't have to go further to see that it's discrimination. It's a long laundry list of African Guyanese that are being charged. Maybe one that wasn't. And these are things that they ought not to do. We have a crisis. They came into government in a pandemic. Instead of focusing on saving the citizens' lives, they went on a tear against, former ministers or people who spoke out against them. So it clearly shows that their intentions are not to worry about the welfare of the people of the country, but to get back at people. Why do you need to get back? What benefit would they have to persecute people? When you have a more important job, you got in there by fair or foul means, run the country and take care of the citizens. And I'm wondering when the international bodies, all of them, are going to come out and speak out against what is going on. Like I said, in the decade of African recognition. So you're thumbing your nose at something from the United Nations. And here we are a part of that.
Yeah, sad case. We know exactly what you're saying, Mr. Crawford. Sad case indeed. Rickford. Sorry, Mr. Crawford. Let's get back to Rickford. The latest development, we know you'll handle it. Again, the fact that you, according to what you just said, that you sued Jack Dio today, right?
Yes.
Or yesterday. Your lawyers did that for $100 million US dollars.
Guyana dollars.
Oh, because they have $500 million in the bank account over here, and that has to be tapped in.
We should probably get the U.S. government to seize it.
With their stupidity. Rickford Burke, for those who are now joining us, he is live here with us to answer this ridiculous, this propaganda, this ridiculous stuff, this persecution of an individual who is frustrated about the sort of racism that's happening in Guyana, and persons, mainly persons of African descent, who are being targeted for persecution, trumped up charges and all these things. We saw what happened yesterday with former finance minister Winston Jordan. We saw what happened to former senior policemen, Paul Slow and others. We saw what happened to people like Roxanne Myers and all of the others, Valda Lawrence, you name it, all of them, Trevor Ben. It is happening. Rickford Burke is upset, and rightly so. I am upset as well. For crying out loud, I am upset. J.R. Crawford is upset. Any right-thinking Guyanese is upset. And Burke is saying, and I agree, it has to stop. Now, how do we stop it? You can't stop it by just sitting down. You've got to be able to say to the regime, enough is enough. From a legal standpoint, mind you. And nothing is wrong with protest action, peaceful protest action, to say that enough is enough of the racism. That is what Burke is talking about. But his lawyers are going to take it on. When they take a look at what the trumped up charges are, people are smart over here. Oh, come on, water and ducks back. Give me a goddamn break.
First of all, Mark, let me say this. Let me say this to everybody. the People's Progressive Party or the government of Guyana does not have jurisdiction over anybody in the United States. That's number one. Second, the United States Constitution guarantees every person free speech. So I'm not sure what is the basis for these charges. Second, I did not incite any racial hostility. I, in fact, pointed out the PPP's racial hostility towards African Guyanese. I pointed out and condemned.
Lots of evidence.
So they don't like that. And they hate the fact that we have been in contact with members of the United States government. As a matter of fact, I understand yesterday, the United States government communicated to Guyana that they're concerned about their racism. And they're concerned about all of the contracts going to one ethnicity. And you notice Barjack there scrambled and had a photo up with a couple of black businessmen in Guyana yesterday. I'm pretty sure that's as a result of the United States government expressing concern about the racism that undergirds the PPP governance of Guyana.
Lots of racism, not only racism, installed ministers of the regime associating with known contract killers. Lots of concerns. J.R. Crawford, let's get your closing remarks before we go, and we'll leave the last word for Rickford Burke.
Mark, what I would like to see is our opposition team, to get out there more.
Oh, come on. Come on, GR.
The
program going nice and you're talking about opposition together. Come on, JR, I'm disappointed in you. But continue.
Well, let the people of this country get together, the right-minded people, and we need to, if we're going to protest, whoever, let us do whatever it is. If the opposition doesn't want to be a part of it, or, they'll pick and choose when they come to the front, so be it. But this thing against people who do not subscribe to the PPP, and they are being abused, we need to put a stop on that, because it's our Constitution also guarantees us certain freedom.
Sure.
Why must we be penalized because we speak out against injustices? This nonsense that's going on in this country needs to stop. And if the United Nations can't step in to correct the mistake or the blatant disrespect that was done to us last year, it's going to lead to violence, because somewhere along the line, people are going to get very, very pissed off and things are going to happen, especially when you're seeing police officers now are starting to brutalize people without reason. These are not the behavior of a civilized society. They're showing a barbaric behavior, and we cannot afford it. And I am still waiting on England, which is supposed to be our mother country, that have sat back and nothing is being done. So, we're practically in this boat alone. So somewhere along the line, something is going to break, and then they're going to want to rush to come and say that, we have race war in this country. They are the ones who set it up that way for financial benefits. The people of this country need to start to get organized for their birthright, for their benefit, for their respect. That is my point. And a sticking point. It is a disgrace to the legal profession to have little Charlie run around with known operative that is not law-abiding citizen. Imagine a lawyer or a so-called lawyer who claims to be an educated person. And when you take the oath as a lawyer, you have to swear onto certain moral standing. That is where you're going to associate yourself.
Them guys don't care. You understand? Them guys don't care. Right, Burke? You understand? Good. They just don't care. Now, before we allow Mr. Burke for his closing remarks, this cyber crime bill, right here on 107.1 FM, I warned the coalition about this cyber crime bill, that the PPP, were they to get back into office, that the PPP will use this very cybercrime bill that was passed under the coalition. They will use that very bill against supporters of the coalition. So said, so done. Mr. Burke, your closing remarks, sir.
Well, Mark, like I said, apparently the PPP believe that they have an inalienable, God-given constitutional right to be racist. And anybody who condemns their racism, they try to persecute them. I will not allow the PPP to persecute me. I would meet them toe-to-toe and challenge everything they do and say. CGID will continue to expose racism and corruption and continue to call for us to confront and resist PPP racism. Now, if the PPP believes that it's their God-given right to be racist and to be antagonistic and to be hostile to Afro-Guyanese, then Afro-Guyanese have the right to resist and to fight to eradicate PPP racism. And like I said, we will not stop resisting, calling for an end, fighting, and exposing PPP racism until the PPP government of Guyana understands and agrees that equitable governance, democratic governance must be the fundamental principles on which governance of Guyana must be premised. And today, they are saying they don't accept that. And I reject that. I call on all Guyanese to reject that. Guyanese must understand that the PPP government does not have a right to be racist. And to be racist, and to condemn racism is not a crime. To condemn their racism and to call people to have a revolution against racism in Guyana is not sedition, it is free speech. And let me end by saying this. My constitutional right trumps any law in the Guyana, and even in the United States. Any statute in the United States must have some statute in a jurisdiction outside of the United States. And the fact that they are so upset that people are condemning their racism shows that they want to make Guyana a dictatorship, and they want to make Guyana a racist ethnocracy where they can subjugate the rights of African Guyanese, and I reject that.
Rejected indeed, and we all stand with you, Rickford Burke. We stand with you. We understand this, the nature of the beast and how they go after mainly persons of African descent. It is a fact, and it is time that people stand up to legally stamp out racism, be it from the regime, be it from whomever, some corrupt private sector businessman, whatever, whomever. No regime, whether they're installed or not, should be persecuting its citizens. It must stop.
And Mark, I forgot to mention,
go ahead, sir.
Last week I saw some very disparaging comments against Ganesh Maipol and Daniel Siram, who are members of the PNC. And they were from supporters of the PNC. And I condemned it and I said it was racist. So I am not afraid to call out racism wherever I see it. And the PPP government is the epitome of racism. And I want to call on all citizens of Guyana to reject their racism, to condemn their racism, to condemn their attempt to silence people. These people think they're so powerful that they want to come into the United States to tell us how we must express ourselves and that we can't condemn their racism. Well, again, tonight, I condemn PPP racism.
Good. And we join with you in condemning the PPP's racism, the PPP's attitude in going after mainly persons of African descent and persecuting them. It happens almost every week. Look at what has happened to the Boston businessman. Shot and killed, murdered by a member of the SWAT team. Nothing to this day. And others, Andres you've mentioned, and others were slaughtered by the police and nothing. And so they expect us to remain quiet. But when we speak, they have their vagabonds and their questionable characters, you understand, to call and say that we are in the US and dividing up the country and all sort of BS.
Mark, they're dividing the country.
Burke.
They have divided the country. They're using the resources of...
Sorry, your volume went low. Your volume went low, Rickford.
That's my member of Congress calling me. I'm saying that they are dividing the country. They have divided Guyana. The PPP, by the allocation of resources, by their rhetoric, by their racist policies and practices, they have divided Guyana. Even in the criminal justice system, where many of their members were charged with serious crimes, and they were all dropped by the DPP. I didn't see the DPP drop Winston Jordan charge, drop Valda Lawrence charge, drop Trevor Ben charge, drop Lowenfield charge, drop London charge, drop Paul Snow. No, she's dropped the charges of PPP East Indians. Why? Because the PPP believes that there's one criminal justice system for PPP East Indians and one for Black people and ordinary people and people who don't support them. And that's how they want to govern the country. And I'm saying no. That's an ethnocracy. That's racism. That's an apartheid system of government. And it must not be tolerated in Guyana.
It must not, and it will not. Burke, I know tomorrow, just closer to midday time, we have a meeting there in Brooklyn. After that meeting, we'll take a beer and we'll let the people see. You haven't been on this show for a while. But
I don't. Mark, I don't think I'm going to do that.
I will be there at that meeting tomorrow. Thank you, Burke.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me. And join me, everybody, at 10 o'clock. I'll respond with a statement on my Facebook page and my YouTube page.
Oh, you're going on your page?
Yes, at 10 o'clock.
Okay, good. Join Rickford on his page. I know Rickford is not going to be as calm as he is on this page because, you know, we broadcast via 107.1 FM. Rickford.
Mark, I'm always calm. I'm always calm.
The Burkes are calm for real. I've known you for about 30 years, and yes, you're calm. You're calm.
Very calm.
Thank you, Crawford.
Thank you for having me.
Burke,
Good night
one
to you.
thing before you go. You have my full support, my friend and brother in this struggle. God
thank
bless.
you.
Okay. Crawford, thank you, sir.
Good night, buddy.
Thank you. We'll talk again. Yeah. It happens. And this is what happens in dictatorship. This is what happens when a regime doesn't give a damn about the people, when they're more concerned about giving out contracts and all sorts of gifts and benefits to their friends and cronies. Look at what has happened with the cash grant, the COVID cash grant, nothing at all. Thousands of people still awaiting their cash grant, nothing. And you can't address that. Look at what has happened. Over 3,000 persons, public servants have been fired, sacked. Most of them are persons of African descent. But you can't speak about these things. You can't say anything. You understand? You can't say anything at all. They get upset, their bumps raise, and all these things. They want to threaten you. They want to send their goons. And we're watching those goons. We know who those goons are. I want those goons to speak more. Let them go on their lives and let them speak more. You understand? Right? We're not going to sit back and allow any goons, political goons, or these operatives in the installed regime or the private sector to feel that they could threaten anybody. No. They have been doing that for 20 odd years with me. Apart from the trumped up charges and all these different things, it doesn't deter me. And you guys know my spirit. I'm not easily threatened by anybody. No one at all. Absolutely no one. Whether they run jail, whether they, all sorts of things, and whatever may have happened to them, you know, they try to say it happened to others too. But we're smarter than that. We're educated people. We admire good people, real role models, not fictitious cartoon characters, role models. No. Hey guys, Rickford Burke is on at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And tomorrow, we do have a very important meeting with some important people. And after that, guess what? I will take a beer with Rickford Burke. There are times we don't agree on everything, but there are also times when we agree on a lot of things. Then there are times when we may separate from each other. Like Ecclesiastes 3 says, there's a season for this and a season for that. And now there's a season for me to render my support to my friend and brother in the struggle, Rickford Burke. He has my full support against the persecution or the attempt at persecution and the attempt to silence him like they have done to many others in Guyana. We must stand up. And when we stand up, we must defend our brothers and sisters, by every legal, L-E-G-A-L, legal means necessary. No violence or anything of that sort. Nobody is against our Indian brothers and sisters, because there are a lot of Indian brothers and sisters who are suffering under that installed PPP regime. A lot of our indigenous brothers and sisters are suffering, and other Guyanese are suffering. But we see the ones who pretend that they're flourishing. You understand? We see the ones who pretend that they're flourishing and everything is hunky-dory in the country. And the problems that they're seeing caused by their political bosses, whether the boss is on Main Street or whether they are Chandrapal Drive or on Rob Street, wherever, we see what is happening. And so what they do is the obvious blame game, that Benchap is preaching racism, and that Burke is this, and that this other body is that, and all manner of things. Haven't we gone through that before? It didn't faze us. 5+ you know what, in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement didn't move me. And so nothing will ever move me. Not the threats from the political punks. It can't. It never did. And it never will. You understand? It never will. But what I do know is that that long list of persons who ought to be extradited from Guyana to the US and other parts of the world ought to and should and will be revisited. Have a great weekend, guys. Have a great weekend. Be blessed. Pray for that country. Pray for our beautiful country. It is under threat. It's under dictatorship. Pray for that country. God bless you all. God bless you all.
What is the difference between the ordinary thief and a political thief? Number one, the ordinary thief steals your money, your bag, your watch, and your jewelry, isn't it? But the political thief steals your future, your career, your education, your health, and your business. Number two, the hilarious part is that the ordinary thief will choose whom to rob. But you are the one who choose the political thief to rob you. Because we choose them. We vote them. We blindly say we are not blind. Who is deceiving who? The ridiculous part of the whole issue is that we will fight to defend and protect our belongings from the ordinary thief. Is it not? But we fight each other to defend and protect the political thief. Is that not what we do? Thugs will be fighting themselves to protect those that are stealing our career, stealing our joy, stealing our health, stealing our success. What a shame. What a travesty. It calls for us to think and think deep. The stage we are in as a country is not a stage where you become an onlooker. You have become an onlooker for too long. You must get ready to put your hands to the plow and be part of the process. It's not just about PVC, carry PVC. You must be in the kitchen where it is being determined. You must be there where the decisions are being made. We are there in our numbers, they cannot outnumber us. But you leave it aloof. Oh, no, it's too dirty. It's a dirty game. And then the dirty guy is getting to the game of play. And you are there not showing up. And when they begin to make the decisions, you will know whether it's a dirty game or not. The result is always dirty on yours. Dirty on your health. Dirty on your business. Dirty on your success and your career. I hope that is stirring up something in you.
Right across Guyana, when the ministers of Granger or Nagamutu come here after the 21st of March, you say to them, walk behind them, chase them out, they're going to be illegal. Say to them, you're illegal. Free up the country, you're undemocratic. they're going to face a different situation right across the country.
When they come to the communities, whether it is in Berbice or Essequibo or in Linden or in South Georgetown or Agricola or in Ennore or Port Morant, the people of Guyana should treat them as illegal. I said they should walk behind them, chase them out of your...
Get over here! You're illegal! You're illegal! You're illegal!